ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's quarterfinals debate. My name is Olivia Bruning, and I'm the chairman of this debate. The timekeeper is Ella Golding. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators who are Mr. Lowen, Miss Bale Turner.
Actually, I hope you don't mind, it's Miss.
Oh, Miss, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh yes, sorry. And Mr. Hensley. The topic of this debate is that we should be concerned by the advance in robotics. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Immanuel College. The negative team seated to my left is from Australian Science and Mathematics School. The speaking time for this debate is 6 minutes. A single warning bell will sound at 1 minute before the speaking time. A double bell will sound at the speaking time. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off. I declare this debate open and call upon the first affirmative speaker, Isaac Harris.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that we should be concerned by the advance in robotics. We define the topic as follows. We means humanity. We are looking at this on a global scale, not just a local or national one. Should be means that there is more reason to be concerned than to not be concerned. And concerned means that there should be some level of worry about the potential implications of said technology. An advance is a modification that increases robotics' functionality, efficiency, and/or accessibility. And robotics is the creation of robots to perform tasks without further human intervention. We recognize that AI, or artificial intelligence, plays an integral part in the advance of robotics. However, it is technically a completely different field of study. We, the affirmative team, believe this to be undeniably true. Today, as first speaker, I will be talking to you about the safety risks from hacking and malfunctions, and the lack of human interaction advances in robotics can bring. Our second speaker will be talking about the economic risks and unemployment that come with advances in robotics, and the way robotics can outpace human understanding. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up the team case. My first point is that as robots become more widespread via accessibility advances, there will be significant safety and security risks. We can already see this in action with the omnipresence of computers and phones. Since we use computers so much in everything we do, we are incredibly vulnerable to hackers. Our data can be leaked, identities stolen, transactions made without our knowledge or consent. Imagine how much worse this could be if robots had a similar omnipresence. They could be reprogrammed to harm us or collect data to then sell to third parties. We could also be harmed if they malfunction, potentially worse than a hack, because there's no human directed behind it, so we have no idea what it could do. And this is not to mention military applications of robotics. Once robots become available enough, the military will start to use them. Instead of humans, war could be fought with robots, leading to less loss of human life. However, although deaths may decrease, people will care less about war. If no one is dying, what's the point in doing anything about it? As a result, more war will happen because the cost of avoiding war is no longer less than the cost of fighting. This would lead to greater chaos and greater world conflict, damaging international relations and individual lives alike. And thus, although less soldiers will be harmed, it is almost certain that more civilians and larger parts of the world will be destroyed by automated warfare. Robotic advancement poses great risks to both countries and families. The more functioning robots become, the more they can potentially harm us. My second point concerns the fact that advancement in robotics will make robots more available and preferred by employers over humans. And if humans are replaced by robots, there will be a notable decrease in human interaction. Even now, for example, most cashiers have been replaced by self-serve checkouts. This means that there is no longer much human interaction when we go shopping, like that small talk as the cashier is scanning your items, or just knowing that there's a human there instead of an impersonal, unfeeling machine. It may not seem like much right now, but imagine it scaled up. Robots replacing many more jobs like that. Humans would be more isolated than ever before, only talking to their friends and perhaps only by appointment, not meeting the receptionist at the hotel, the postman, the bus driver, or just people on the street. They would all be replaced by machines. We have seen from the COVID pandemic just how catastrophic isolation can be. The World Health Organization states that in the first year of the pandemic, depression rates increased by 25%. As further evidence of how humans are impacted by isolation, a Newcastle University study has shown that deficiencies in social relationships are associated with a higher risk for coronary heart disease and stroke. And further studies have shown that isolation is linked to depression, dementia, poor immune function, and a host of other maladies. If humans are replaced by robots, human contact points are removed, opening up all these adverse effects and isolation to more and more people. We should definitely be concerned about more people experiencing this, and if advances in robotics cause it, we should be concerned about that too. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, advances in robotics have the potential to expose people to safety and security risks and cause harm to our interpersonal and international relations. We most definitely should be concerned about advances in robotics if these are results. Robots can still be useful, but we need to integrate them carefully, making sure that we avoid as many adverse effects as possible and accept them with caution. Thank you.
I now call upon the first negative speaker, Felix Lister.
Good evening, respected chairperson and members of the audience. The topic of tonight's debate is that we should be concerned with the advance in robotics. We, the negative team, unequivocally disagree with this statement. We agree with the definition provided by the affirmative team. As the negative team, we'll be arguing that the advancement in robotics is not a cause of concern. I'll be outlining the benefits that robotics has on humanity and highlighting the appropriate laws that govern the appropriate use of robots. Our second speaker will discuss the advancement and benefits that robotics has on humanity and highlighting. Our second speaker will discuss the advancement and benefits of robotics throughout history in society and how robots possess the ability to perform tasks unaccomplishable by humans. Finally, our third speaker will rebut the opposition's arguments and conclude our team's case. The first speaker from the opposing team has stated that the advance in robotics would be dangerous because of its possible military applications. Stopping the advance of robotics won't stop war. Robots that are already built today can still be used in war. There are many other more advanced tools of war that we should be more concerned about, such as nuclear and chemical warfare. Robots in military will only cause a fraction of damage when compared to these. The opposition has also stated that robots will be that a concern of robots is their misuse. In any project or invention, there is always the possibility for misuse and negative application. There is a very generalized argument that can be used in a variety of situations. As I will say, the misuse of robotics can be reduced through laws put in place, through safety measures put in place by the companies that develop the robotic equipment. My first point is that robots have greatly improved the world in numerous ways in the field of production, manufacturing, medicine, and automation. Advancements in these fields have had such a profound impact on the world because of their resolute consistency, reliability, and the economic viability of employing robots, and the precision that they provide in each of their respective fields. Due to this, they are the ideal candidate to aid the living workforce. Robots allow us to complete repetitive, dangerous, and exhausting work which would otherwise harm humans. According to the International Labour Organization, More than 2.3 million people globally succumb to work-related injuries or diseases annually, which is becoming directly minimized by the introduction of robots in the workforce. Now that robotics is advancing at an exponential rate, robots can now accomplish work that could otherwise kill a human. Why should people still have to risk their lives to work? That risk, which is worth more concern than robots would pose, can now easily be avoided by the advancement in robotics. Moreover, the advancement in robotics is proving to be a turning point for automation. Now, companies have the opportunity to employ workers that do not require a salary, that can work all hours of the day, and have the opportunity to improving cost effectiveness for companies and their products. It also grants businesses the opportunity to lower the prices of their goods, as significantly less money will be spent paying the remuneration of employees. Robots have also demonstrated that they are more precise than any human. A trial undertaken by the St. George's Hospital in the United Kingdom established that robots have the capacity to be up to 10 times more precise than human eye surgeons. With the advance in robotics, this measure will become fundamentally larger, with robots in the future likely to automate far more complex jobs, which will minimize the amount of human error present in tasks they complete. My second point is that as robotics become more advanced in the future, more governments, companies, and people are considering various laws and methodologies to maintain the integrity of nations' economies and of robots. Already, governments and professors of law, including Professor Frank Pascal from the Brooklyn Law School, stated that robots should not attempt to counterfeit humans, that they should not be used as a form of weaponry, and that each robot must provide detail on its creator, controller, and owner. The application of these laws within countries will allow robotics to advance in a positive direction and address major flaws that previous forms of automation, such as self-driving cars, have had, where there have been several conflicts related to who is to blame when robotics malfunctions. With the discussion of these laws today, and with robotics becoming further advanced, laws like these will verify that robotics will not cause harm to humanity. In addition to this, governments and countries will have to establish clear guidelines about what companies can and cannot develop and apply in the field of robotics, similar to what the European Union decided in 2017. Furthermore, during the Industrial Revolution, life-changing new technology allowed for the advancements in countless areas that displaced numerous jobs. The advancements in robotics, namely enabling complex processes to be automated, will change the world of work permanently for the better. However, thank you.
I now call upon the second affirmative speaker, Jamie Reichel.
Good evening, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of our debate is that we should be concerned by the advance in robotics. We, the affirmative team, believe this is undoubtedly true. Our first speaker has already explained the numerous safety risks associated with the advance in robotics, as well as the impact it has upon people's mental health. Today, I'll be speaking about the economic risks and the way in which innovation outpaces human understanding. But first, I'd like to point out some flaws in the opposing team's case. The first negative speaker has tried to explain that robotics will allow for an improved rate of production, manufacturing, and give more medical applications, which is a reason to not be concerned. While we agree with the premise that robotics do increase production and robots can increase the quality of a product, just because robots can benefit us in one field doesn't mean they harm us in another. We've seen robotics, and as I'll explain in my second point, and in my first point, that robotics can actually harm people economically and displace people out of jobs. Just because there are some benefits doesn't dismiss the other negative effects and negative implications. And it's under that logic that we should still have some level of concern, because without concern, we can't address these other negative implications. And why would we want to progress as a society without addressing all the potential problems we can? Because obviously we would like to be most prosperous as a society. The opposition has also tried to explain that new laws are developing and this will help robotics develop in a safe and sound manner. We would like to point out, though, that some of the key 3 laws that are being used in areas such as the European Union and even being considered in Australia are called the key 3 law, Asimov's 3 laws, robotic laws. They were 3 philosophical laws created more than 75 years ago about robotics, and they are being applied to several other places around the world to create their robotic laws. The fact we are still using laws that are 75 years old is something of concern in itself, and that as society progresses, and I'll explain this further in my second point, we need to address the way robotics advance, and with concern, we need to be able to address the fact that we need to address laws and the development of robotics in a safe manner, and that the current laws haven't actually addressed the main problem of the issue. My first point is that the advance in robotics has many economic disadvantages. Often we associate robotics with increased productivity and increased quality of product. While this may be true, robotics has many negative effects when it comes to displacing the working class and perpetuating already existing income inequalities. In a 2020 study conducted by MIT professor Darren Acemoglu found that for every robot added per 1,000 workers in the US, wages declined by 0.42%. For those employees who work in these manufacturing industries, they will continue to experience a decrease in pay. This is reinforced again by Acemoglu, who states, "Our evidence shows that robots increase productivity, they are very important for continued growth and for firms, but at the same time, they destroy jobs and they reduce labour demand. We cannot continue to displace countless working civilians. The negative effects of this are even worse when we consider the cost to our overall economy. JobSeeker costs the Australian government more than $3 billion a year. Imagine this cost on a global scale and with millions more people. The opposition may like to argue that the efficiency of our economy will increase because of robotics, but the pure cost of this unemployment will increase taxes and hinder our economy greatly. These issues are further exacerbated by their effects on already existing income inequalities. Economist Harm Bernholtz states that the issue is, however, that different income and skill groups do not benefit to the same extent, which means that robotization further adds to income inequality. Currently, if the advance in robotics continues unchecked and without concern, we could see thousands put out of work without safe and sound solutions. While the advance in robotics is inevitable, we must still show some level of concern to mitigate the countless negative effects robotics has upon unemployment and the economy. My second point is that technological development is outpacing humanity's understanding and ability to develop alongside. In our current age of innovation, gaining an understanding of how everything that interacts with us works is seemingly impossible. Most of us simply do not have the time to learn how our Wi-Fi systems, mobile phones, and countless other items function. This same lack of understanding is beginning to become a problem for even academics studying and innovating new technology, such as robotics. Innovation is moving at such a rapid pace, science and potential ramifications are left behind. Take, for example, the creation of digital privacy laws. Even though the internet became public in the mid-1990s, today we are still trying to legislate laws to regulate privacy and data on the internet. Robotics could outpace us in the exact same way. Laws and understanding may fall behind, leaving many in harm's way. As mentioned by the first affirmative speaker, there are countless safety risks associated with robotics. If the development of robotics outpaces our law making and understanding, these issues will be exacerbated greatly. Furthermore, Michigan University's law school professor, Daniel Christian, states that, in some cases, technology changes before we can experience it enough to learn how to manage it and make good decisions about it. Fundamentally, if we continue into this advance blind and without consideration and concern, we could again get ahead of ourselves, constantly trying to fix what we've created. Laws, sciences, and studies could fall behind the ever-evolving technologies, putting people in harm's way when it comes to our digital, physical, and emotional safety. For these reasons, we should have some degree of concern to allow us to address the potential implications before they arise and prevent technology from outpacing us. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we should be concerned about the advance in robotics, because of its potential economic risks and the threat of humanity's understanding being left behind. The advance in robotics is inevitable, but without concern, the various disadvantages of robotics will negatively impact countless people. We must show our concern and address these problems for a better, more innovative and creative future. Thank you.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Molly Portridge.
Good evening, respected chairperson and members of the audience. The topic for tonight's debate is that we should be concerned by the advance in robotics. We, as the negative team, argue that this statement is false. I would like to begin by rebutting the opposing team's case. The second affirmative speaker referenced Asimov's law. Asimov's law are fiction, and he himself is a science fiction writer. We were not referencing to Asimov's law, but about real legislation that will be implemented to protect us and mitigate concerns. These laws have been created by experts. The second speaker from the affirmative team has also attempted to argue that the funds required for robotics is a concern for their advancement. However, robotics is both privately and publicly owned. This statement is not based on evidence and on what needs to be invested in. Rather, it was a statement on what the speaker deemed to be more important. Governments and private companies invest into robotics because they are an important field. They also said that robots get rid of jobs. They also create new jobs that involve higher levels of thinking and creativity. The second affirmative speaker also said that the advance in robotics is outpacing human understanding. No matter how basic the systems are, people will never understand all areas of it. As long as a few experts understand, we'll be safe. Our first speaker has already discussed the overwhelming benefits of robots and allowing them to continue to develop. They also spoke about the laws in place to keep robotics safe and under control. My first point is that there have been many advancements in robotics in the past that have ultimately benefited society. The concept of machines that will replicate human abilities and do tasks for us has been around for over a century. The idea of robots was first met with apprehension, largely due to science fiction texts depicting robots taking over the world. Despite this initial concern, robots have become an integral part of modern society. They are incredibly important in making our lives more efficient, safe, and enjoyable. None of this would be possible without the incredible advancements in robotics made over the past few decades. The first programmable robot was created in 1954, known as the Unimate. While it was incredibly useful in the specific tasks it was designed for, it took a long time for anyone to realize its true potential. It was only because of later advancements that robots became the incredibly useful technology they are today. One such advancement was a robot that could use artificial intelligence. It could detect objects and plan a path around them. Driverless car technology was based on this original prototype. In the early 2000s, a robot was created that was able to imitate human emotions and sounds. This technology was the beginning of virtual assistants like Siri and Google Home. In 2004, a robot was created that was able to walk on legs instead of rolling on wheels. This meant that robots could traverse any terrain, not just smooth, hard ground. All of these advancements in robotics may have originally been a concern to the public, but they have proved to be incredibly useful things in doing things that humans either cannot or don't want to do. similar advancements people are making now will also prove to be advantageous in shaping a safer and more efficient future for everyone. Advancements in robotics aren't something to be concerned about. They are something to welcome so that our lives can improve, as seen in the many advancements made throughout history. My second point is that robots possess the ability to perform tasks humans are unable to do. A fundamental part of our human nature is our instinctive curiosity. People are constantly creating new inventions, endeavouring new ideas, or exploring new places. With the use of robotics, we can explore places that previous generations thought were completely out of our reach. Scientists from the National Library of Medicine approximate that 91% of the ocean has never been explored, and 80% of sea animals have never been classified. Conditions deep in the ocean are too hazardous for people to get to because of high pressures and extreme temperatures. The deep ocean, or even far out space, may be accessible in the near future due to advancements in robotics. A robot can be controlled to go deep into unexplored areas of the ocean and collect data for scientists to analyse without any risk to their safety. We will be able to discover more about the planet we live on and the species that inhabit it. Even more exciting is the possibility that robots can go deep into space. There are already several unmanned spacecraft billions of kilometres away from Earth, collecting data on the outer edge of the solar system. These spacecraft don't contain any people because conditions that far from the sun are too lethal, even with a spacesuit. Instead, they are controlled by robotics. If robotics continues to advance as it is now, so that spacecraft can travel farther, collect better data, and show better pictures, we could make many new extraordinary discoveries about the universe and further advance humanity. So, respected chairperson and members of the audience, we should not be concerned by the advancements in robotics. Robots are created for humans, by humans, to do the things we can't. Qualified professionals cause the advance in robotics. They are trained to ensure our safety and eliminate concerns. We shouldn't fear them taking from us, but instead welcome the discoveries they could bring. Thank you.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, Edward Micken.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of this debate is that we should be concerned about the advances in robotics, and we, the affirmative team, strongly believe that concern in the advance of robotics is justifiable. Today, I will be refuting the negative side of this debate and summarising my team's case. Firstly, on to my rebuttal. The opposition have stated numerous arguments which satisfy the theme of workforce quality. As mentioned by the second affirmative speaker, advancements in robotics do not lead to advancements in both efficiency and the quality of the workforce. According to a study conducted by MIT University, for every robot added per 1,000 US workers, the employment to population ratio decreased by over 0.2%, with each robot taking 6 jobs from the economy, accounting to over 400,000 jobs as of the present. And these are only just the baseline, hard labour jobs. With robotic advancement, the most common human jobs, including retail sales and cashiers, those which possess the same hold on the economy as they did in the 1700s, as according to the Australian government, could be consumed, producing mass unemployment. Unemployment which would not increase the quality of human workers, for those made unemployed would lack both the intelligence and the wealth to upskill their abilities. Loss of a job would leave them with no money to gain education, and the basic jobs they would have been cast out of would furthermore suggest their inability to improve.
Now, whilst this may not seem like a detriment to the economy, the mass unemployment and underemployment which would ensue would provide governments across the world with a great cost. The cost to maintain living standards and support everyone. The cost would be similar to JobSeeker, which cost the Australian government over $3 billion per year, yet on a much greater and much more severe level. The efficiency of individual companies would not benefit nations much, instead just damaging them, their economy, and their workforce. The opposition have also argued that robot advances will benefit the quality of life, with the arguments of robot history and robotic benefits. Firstly, as mentioned by the second affirmative speaker, unemployment would drastically increase through advances in robotics. Such unemployment would prevent humans from obtaining money and thus resources vital to life. Such unemployment would result in the severe displacement of thousands, if not millions, of workers, unable to make a living and unable to maintain their well-being. Such an effect would be even worse in developing countries where the majority of the workforce, up to 20% in some cases according to the Human Development Report, is manual labour and other operations that will be easily replaceable by robots. Increased inequalities on a global stage. Similarly, as stated by the first affirmative speaker, the social isolation caused by this unemployment will be alike to the COVID pandemic, in which over 75% of participants in a study conducted by Headspace found that their mental health worsened, severely damaging their quality of life. Finally, social regression may also ensue, with culture being subdued by an increase in robotic representation and thus a lesser focus upon the creativity and passion brought to society by humans, sacrificing the development we have worked so hard for. Overall, advancements in robotics will incredibly detriment the quality of life for everyone, not just those already suffering, but you, me, everyone. The opposition have stated that laws will be put in place in order to manage robots. Firstly, I'd like to draw your attention to the internet. The internet was at first a small, little, unharmful thing, which developed at a minute pace. However, in the early 2000s, development in this area exploded. Exploded before we could create laws for such, leading to a great exploitation of both privacy and data. Now tell me, how is this different from robotics? Can an advancement which is beginning to explode, no governments will be able to form laws for such in time to suit this changing area. And no company, an area in which corporations are beginning to take stake in. No suitable laws will be able to be formed, and no corporations will be able to adhere to such. Similarly, there is no international mandate for countries to put laws upon robotics, meaning that certain countries, despite all the morals acquainted with such, may exploit robotics on a global stage. And in such way, due to our inability to form suitable laws for robotics, we should be concerned for the advancement of robotics. Furthermore, I'd just like to emphasize that despite the possible benefits of robotic advancement could bring, concern is still suitable to ensure that these benefits are received by humanity. Now, I would like to move on to my summary. Throughout this debate, the affirmative team has argued a team line that we should be concerned about the advance in robotics, with a team line that robotic innovation is inevitable, but without concern or proper consideration, it will only damage society and its people. The first affirmative speaker discussed the safety risks of robots, including hacking, the military, and data leakages. He further went on to describe to you the severe impacts that social isolation caused by robots would promote, leading to decreases in both physical and mental health. The second affirmative speaker carried on arguing the economic disadvantages and the unemployment robots was cause. He finalised his speech by discussing the way in which such is outpacing humanity. And in such way, ladies and gentlemen, be concerned, be afraid, be petrified. For robotic advancement is nigh, and we are in for a surprise. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Xander Neeskens.
Good evening, respected chairperson and members of the audience. The topic for this evening's debate is that we should be concerned by the advancement of robotics. We, the negative team, argue that this statement is unmistakably false. The advancements of robotics should not be a concern because any issues caused by and relating to robots is preventable because of future legislations as highlighted by our first speaker. Robotics is an inevitable and wonderful part of our future, of humanity's future, and humans and robots will work together in the future to achieve more than humanity ever could alone, as evidently seen even today. Today, I will begin by exposing the detriments of the opposition's case, and following that, I will provide a summary of my team's case. The first opposition spoke about how robotics will isolate people. This is not true because robotics will, They stated that human interaction will decrease because robots will be taking jobs and we will limit the amount of times that we interact with other humans. This is simply not true because robots will be replacing the jobs that humans will have to fulfill. Instead, this will allow for more freedom and allow for more time for humans to socialize with one another. Mentioning jobs, all three speakers of the opposition have mentioned that robots will take human jobs, when instead they will displace human jobs. There are 4 types of jobs that all careers fit into, 4 types of categories that all careers fit into. Manual routine, which are jobs that are repetitive and done manually, such as bricklaying. Manual non-routine, such as plumbing or gardening, where you're still doing a manual job, but it's not the same every time. Cognitive routine, such as accounting, where you're using your thinking skills to do your job, but it's still more or less a routine job. And cognitive non-routine jobs, such as design and engineering, where you are using your thinking skills to create things that are different every time. Robots are excellent and possibly better than humans at routine jobs, such as these bricklaying and accounting. So there isn't much of a doubt that robots will eventually surpass humans in this category. However, this will allow more humans to go into these non-routine jobs and these jobs that require thinking skills, because human creativity cannot be replicated by robots. The opposition has also stated that unemployment will cause our community to not have enough money for basic life necessities, such as what they need. However, there are governments currently that have put in plans in place, such as reskilling workers to complete these cognitive and non-routine jobs, and establishing a basic human income, like in Iceland. The Icelandic president has implemented a basic minimum wage as a support form for unemployed and all people of Iceland, so that they don't have to worry about paying for these basic human needs. Instead, they have enough money to pay for it. This can be implemented as a global solution and will most likely be implemented in future years. The second affirmative speaker has stated that technology will advance before laws can keep up with it. Law is one of the fastest adapting sectors and will make sure that technology will not advance too quickly, as highlighted by our first speaker. An example of this would be self-driving cars. Now, you may wonder, why don't we see too many self-driving cars on the road? Well, that's because law has prohibited them on going on main roads. The only vehicles that are autonomous, that are allowed on roads, are classified as level 3 autonomous vehicles, which I will not go into, but law has dictated that these vehicles are the highest amount of autonomy that is allowed on the road because it is currently unsafe. So law has prohibited the advance of technology to keep our communities safe. Continuing on with employment and the economy, unlike what the third speaker has stated, we would not have lost jobs. Jobs will be displaced, meaning humans will be made to work in other sectors. They will not lose their jobs. they will be able to make a living. And they also spoke about not having enough workers. The goal of robotics in this sector will be to fill those missing positions so that we can guarantee we never have issues with a lack of employment ever again. Now, to summarize my team's case, our first speaker spoke to you about how robotics can enhance our workforce and in turn our economy. He also spoke about how law can ensure that robotics advances when the public is ready and not sooner, to guarantee that robots are ethically sound and before they are made and released. Our second speaker spoke to you about how the benefits of robotics heavily outweigh any unlikely but possible concerns associated with the field, as demonstrated in the past. She also spoke about how robotics can allow humans to achieve what was previously never possible. So, respected chairperson and members of the audience, we, the negative team, can doubtlessly assure you that we should not be concerned by the advance in robotics. This field is designed to help humanity in new ways and provide us with a safer, more prosperous, and more fulfilling future. How could this ever be possible with concerns? I will leave you with a quote tonight by Horace Jackson Brown Jr., a famous author. "Concerns create missed opportunities, and there is nothing more expensive than a missed opportunity." Thank you.